Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a comic book wrap-up. So quickly guys, before I head into this wrap-up of all these comic books, no spoilers for any of these, so continue to watch freely as you wish. Plus, since I got a lot of books, I got a big pile here I gotta get through. I'm not going to go into a hell of a lot of detail with all these books. If you want to go check out my Goodreads, a lot of these I have a little bit more in-depth discussion about some of them, so yeah, go to Goodreads if you want to know more, but yeah, I'm going to just go quickly through all this as best I can. The story of Diva and Flea by Mo Williams takes place in Paris, France, and follows a cat named Flea and a dog named Diva, who come from very different worlds. Flea is a street cat who lives his life day by day, exploring and discovering something new. Diva is a small, pampered dog who is prone to being scared by the tiniest of things and has never explored beyond the gates of where she lives. One day, Diva and Flea meet each other, and the two become the most unlikely of friends as they each teach the other how to try new things and venture beyond what they are familiar with. So, Diva and Flea, I'm definitely not the intended target audience for this book, but oh my goodness, this was super sweet and cute and adorable, and like all children's fiction, the point is to teach a lesson, and that's exactly what this book does. It teaches a lesson of some sort. It's about a pampered dog and a stray cat. They come from two complete opposite worlds, but they form this unlikely friendship. And yeah, it's about this cute little dog who needs to learn to be brave and stop being scared all the time and venture from her home. And then you have the cat who, because he's a stray, yeah, he's never had a good home life. He's never had love and family, and so the two of them, they come together, they form a great bond. Like I said, it's sweet and adorable. It's a very simplistic story. You know, it's a very simplistic story, but yeah, it has beautiful artwork. I love the coloring. I love that it's set in Paris, France, of all random places. So yeah, I definitely recommend this if you have a young child. I think they will get the biggest kick and joy from it with these cute animals, and I think even you as an adult, you'll find some sort of pleasure as well reading it. The Marhala Desire is a manga series set in the world of the Resident Evil video game series. Professor Doug Wright and his nephew Ricky travel to the prestigious Marhala Academy to investigate a series of student deaths. But the students aren't staying dead, they are coming back to life. Professor Wright realizes he's going to need more help before things get out of hand, and asks for the help of Chris Redfield, who's had his fair share of encounters with the undead. I've said it before, and I'll say it again in case you've never heard me say this. I am a huge fan of the Resident Evil video game series. I'm normally not into zombies, you know. Zombie things kind of just have to hit me in a certain way, and I really enjoy the Resident Evil zombie franchise. They're just really scary and gory and just kind of all the zombie goodness you want in a franchise. So yeah, I saw this manga series. I wanted to pick it up and read it, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect with it because I was like, this is either going to be hit or miss, and I think this was pleasantly surprising at the end of the day. Just a really intense story and really great characters for a Resident Evil series. Because a lot of times the Resident Evil series, it's not really known for, you know, deeply fleshed out characters, if you get my drift. But I think this actually kind of fleshes out some characters in some interesting ways compared to the video game series. And yeah, great artwork. Sometimes the artwork could get a little overwhelming and confusing because it is all black and white, and sometimes the black and white kind of merges, and sometimes there's a lot going on, and it's like, wait, what's going on here? Who's getting decapitated? Whose blood is this? So sometimes on any given frame, it could be a little bit confusing at times, but in general, I liked the artwork, just really well done. It felt like Resident Evil. That's the big takeaway with this book. It felt like Resident Evil. If you love the franchise, I think you will be pleasantly surprised with this and find yourself actually really enjoying it and getting into it. And yeah, it's very intense, it's very gory, it has a really great, interesting story that kind of takes some twists and turns. And I mean, yeah, like any given Resident Evil video game, I mean, some things kind of turn out to be a little bit predictable. You can kind of guess some things that are going to happen, but still, it didn't mess up my enjoyment at all. And another thing about this series as a whole, you're constantly kind of switching, like, wait, who's the hero? Who's the villain? There were many occasions that I was like, okay, this is clearly the heroes, this is clearly the villains, but then sometimes it would twist on you in some fascinating ways, unexpected ways, and it was like, oh, okay, I did not see that plot twist coming. And also, one final thing, this series, I don't think I've even mentioned this yet, it's 5 books in total, correct? Yes, 5 books in total. This series does not rely on Resident Evil franchise favorites. Even though characters like Chris Redfield are in this book, the thing is, Chris Redfield, this series is not about Chris Redfield. This is about a professor and his nephew Ricky, and then all these various characters that populate the world of this prestigious academy. It's not about Chris Redfield and his partner Piers, who kind of come out here to investigate. They kind of make cameos more than anything. They do appear more prominently in like books 4 and 5, but yeah, this series is kind of solely focused on the professor and his nephew. So I was a little worried about that too, because I'm a Chris Redfield fangirl, and I got over it. You know, I got over it that he wasn't in here as much as I was wanting him to be. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. This does not rely on franchise favorites to immediately hook you, if that makes sense. So yeah, if you're a fan of Resident Evil, I highly recommend this. Pleasantly surprised is my big takeaway with it. The Promise is an exciting new story set in the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender. The war is over, but there is still tension between the nations. Aang believes that the way to peace is for Zuko to remove any presence of the Fire Nation from the Earth Nation. While Zuko wants peace as well, he's not comfortable with removing families who have lived in the Earth Nation for generations. This conflict puts Aang and Zuko at odds, and Aang may have to destroy his friendship with Zuko for the sake of peace and harmony. Yay! More Avatar: The Last Airbender. I can never get enough of Avatar, yeah guys. The more Avatar, the better. If you don't know anything about Avatar: The Last Airbender, this was a cartoon series that aired on the Nickelodeon channel, and oh boy, was Avatar: The Last Airbender epic and amazing. Great stories, great characters. And yeah, they've decided to continue telling comic stories set in this universe, and I've really been enjoying that, you know, because the world is so huge and it's so expansive. There's so many characters, and there's still so much to explore even after the show has aired. So yeah, this is kind of, I believe this is like the first comic book series spin-off, because they've done a lot of spin-offs, and I believe this is the first one that was released. And yeah, this is The Promise. It's 3 parts, and yeah, they're very small, you guys. They're very small. You can pretty much read them in one sitting, okay? And yeah, the artwork is very, very beautiful. It's simple, and the thing is, it looks like the cartoon. Everything you love about the cartoon, the design work of the characters and the world building, it all looks the same. So yeah, nothing is so different that it's distracting. And even the dialogue, it's like the people writing the dialogue in here, it sounds exactly like the characters. You know, they understand the characters, how they think, and their motivations, their speech patterns. It's like you can hear, you know, if you sit and close your eyes, it's like you can hear the characters speaking, you know. And in general, all 3 of these volumes, they were stunning, you guys, even as short as they are. Just a crazy epic story for something so short. Things are pretty dark. Don't go into this expecting things to be light and happy and unicorns and rainbows and flowers. No. I mean, you have some of that, you know, some of that classic Avatar: The Last Airbender goofiness and humor and silliness. It does make its way in here, but more than anything, this series is quite dark and intense and handling some really intense topics and whatnot, because even though the war has been ended, and the bad guys have been defeated, it's like there's still a lot of darkness and a lot of anger and resentment, and you know, people still not quite sure where they lie in this new world order, I suppose. And yeah, you have the characters of Aang representing one side, Zuko representing another side, and the thing is, neither side is wrong. You know, that's the thing, neither side is wrong. They're just coming from two different points of view that makes sense, and it's kind of a thing of, well, how can we unite our two opposing points of view and work together and make some sort of peace and harmony. You know, that's all Zuko and Aang want at the end of the day. And will their friendship be ruined? Stay tuned. You have to read all 3 volumes to find out if their friendship remains intact. But yeah, I love these 3 volumes for The Promise. Definitely just an amazing, intense, lovely story. Gets you in the feels. Kanan, The Last Padawan by Greg Weisman is a 2-part series that follows the character of Kanan from the animated cartoon Star Wars Rebels. We see Kanan begin as young Padawan Caleb Dume under the apprenticeship of his master Depa Billaba. But Caleb's way of life drastically changes once Emperor Palpatine issues Order 66, a directive to execute all Jedi. Caleb goes on the run with his master and learns to trust in his instincts as he does all he can to survive and outwit the Empire. I'm definitely not going to sit and talk about these comics too much because my sister actually did a review for both of these volumes. I think she did one maybe sometime last year. My sister, she'll occasionally do some Star Wars book-related reviews, so I remember my sister really loving these. I really liked these too. I think this is my first time reading some Star Wars related comics. I have never read any Star Wars comics. And yeah, I love Kanan. Kanan is one of the leading heroes of the cartoon series Star Wars Rebels. I love him. He's a gorgeous looking man, voiced by Freddie Prinze Jr., by the way. So yeah, I really liked these 2 volumes of the Kanan series. Mostly these are just flashbacks, backstory to the character of Kanan, because in the cartoon series, you don't really learn much about Kanan. He'll kind of every now and then drop a little bit of information, but yeah, the cartoon is not really about these characters, what their backstories are, you know, it's more about what's happening in the present. So yeah, that's the point of this 2-part comic series, is to explore Kanan when he was a Jedi Padawan and apprentice and whatnot, and yeah, his relationship with his master, and yeah, where he is exactly when Order 66 happens, Order 66 being the event that causes the mass death of all of the Jedis, and yeah, where Kanan is during all of this, and just where his character goes from there, you know, and yeah, him forming some unlikely friendships with some characters, and him really learning to discover more about who he is, what he's capable of, and yeah, how he becomes the character that we see eventually in the Star Wars Rebels cartoon. And yeah, great artwork. I think one of my biggest complaints is that I wish the artwork would have been a little bit more consistent, because that's something I hate with like running series sometimes, is that they'll sit and change artists, and it's very noticeable and distracting. It's like you get used to a character looking a certain way, how they're drawn, and then the next artist kind of does their own interpretation and the character's drawn in a different way. So it's kind of one of my biggest complaints with the artwork, is that I just wish it was consistent and just have one artist, you know, one artist doing everything. But yeah, overall, a really fantastic duology. Love me some Kanan, and yeah, this kind of got me in the mood for exploring some more Star Wars comic books. Chewie and the Porgs by Kevin Schnick takes place in the world of Star Wars between movies The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, where we see Rey and Chewbacca arrive on the planet Ahch-To, where they're looking for Luke Skywalker. And in the meantime, while Rey is trying to learn from Master Luke Skywalker, Chewbacca encounters some adorable Porgs. Chewie and the Porgs, you guys. I mean, seriously, what else is there to say about Chewie and the Porgs? This is about Chewbacca and the cute little bird-like inhabitants of the island of Ahch-To, where Luke Skywalker is, and Rey's trying to, you know, hunt down Luke Skywalker and whatnot. Yeah, that's all this book is. This is a children's picture book. It's freaking adorable. You guys, it is so freaking adorable. It's so small. I don't care if you're not a child, even if you're just an adult. If you're an adult and you are obsessed with the porgs like me, you're gonna want this to add to your collection. It's seriously very sweet and cute. And yeah, about Chewbacca, because if you've seen the movie, Chewbacca is just very irritated and frustrated with the porgs because they're a bit of a nuisance, and that this is just about Chewbacca kind of warming up to the porg, and the porgs warming up to him as well. And yeah, just very sweet and cute artwork, very simplistic. I mean, seriously, there's not very much to even talk about this. I mean, you're either pro-porg or anti-porg. Either way, I mean, I think this is just something really cute. If you do love porgs, pick it up. Figment and the Dreamfinder return in Figment 2, A Legacy of Imagination. This time they arrive in modern-day Florida, where new technology exists, which causes the Dreamfinder to doubt himself and his capabilities. In doubting himself, a dark version of the Dreamfinder springs into existence, with the intent of destroying the dreams and imagination of everyone. But one brave little girl goes on an adventure with Figment in order to restore the Dreamfinder to prevent the destruction of dreams and imagination. I loved Volume 2 of this duology, you guys. I previously reviewed Figment Volume 1 probably a couple years ago. I loved that, enjoyed it so much. Yeah, Volume 2 was just as sweet and cute and poignant and emotional. And yeah, this is Marvel Disney, put out by Marvel Disney, so of course it's kind of intended more for a younger audience. Of course it has some lessons that need to be taught, and yeah, I mean, one of the more poignant messages and themes of this particular volume, because the Dreamfinder, his origin story, he originally started in like after the Victorian era. I think the first book took place in like 1910, something like that. So yeah, this second volume jumps to present day, and there's technology, and it's like, do people still believe in the imagination and the journey of imagination and exploration and invention and whatnot, and yeah, just because of this rise of technology, the Dreamfinder, he starts to doubt himself, and yeah, in turn creates this kind of dark version of himself that's out there to destroy all of imagination and destroy childhood, essentially. But yeah, just a very, very sweet conclusion to this duology. Yeah, if you're a fan of all things Disney or Marvel Comics, pick this up. If you love Figment, the purple dragon, pick this up. A lot of people have no idea who the hell Figment is, which is a shame, but he is. He's such a cute little purple dragon. So yeah, you guys, I mean, that's really all I have to say about this. Just pick it up. Like I said, because this is volume 2, I don't really want to go into spoilers or anything, but yeah, very, very lovely and highly recommend. Taking place between seasons 2 and 3 of the hit TV series, Vikings Godhead follows Ragnar Lothbrok and his companions as they work in an uneasy alliance with King Ecbert of Wessex. The pagans don't trust the Christians, and the Christians don't trust the pagans. In order to prove a mutual trust, Ecbert asks Ragnar to defeat another group of raiding Vikings. A comic book series for the TV series Vikings, which airs on the History Channel. I was excited to find that out, you guys. I am a huge freaking fan of the TV series Vikings. I love it so much. Just amazing characters and great stories and whatnot. And yeah, if you love, like conflict between two groups of people, and paganism and Christianity and all that stuff, I mean, it's brilliant. It's just really cleverly written and acted and whatnot. So yeah, I saw this first volume of this comic book series, and I was like, I must pick this up. I'm not sure how many are in this series. I know there's a second one. I haven't gotten my hands on that, but yeah, I've not seen if there's a third or anything. So yeah, what to talk about with this? I did enjoy this for the most part. There wasn't really much of anything I disliked. I think one of my criticisms with this book is that it's average, I mean, that's as most as my negativity will go towards this, is that it's so-so, it's average, but in positive terms, it feels like a random episode of the TV series. This feels like an uncut adventure that we never got to see on the TV series. But yeah, because of that, it does kind of feel like an average episode, if that makes sense. And I guess another negative towards this book is that I don't think random people can just pick this book up, if that makes sense. I think you do have to be a fan of the TV series in order to enjoy this, because a lot of times there were things that were left unsaid. And the only reason I could kind of read in between the subtext is because I'm familiar with the show, you know? I was able to kind of fill in some gaps and missing information and be like, okay, I know what's not being said here, but in the back of my head I know what's kind of implied, you know? So that's kind of the one downside of this book. I think you do definitely need to be familiar with the show, or else some things will kind of be very casually mentioned, or not mentioned at all, but you gotta fill in the blanks, you know? So yeah, either way, the artwork was fine as well. I mean, there's nothing really wild and crazy about the artwork. A complaint I have seen other reviewers have about this series is that it's kind of difficult to tell who's who. The Vikings, a lot of the Vikings kind of look the same. They're all blonde, for crying out loud. You know, there's not very much diversity. There's not very much diversity in the world of Vikings. Everyone's pretty much white and blonde, if you get my drift. So yeah, sometimes it was kind of difficult to tell who the hell was who, especially the women. The women were the worst cases of this. It's like, wait, which female character is this? Because I cannot tell them apart because they're all blonde. At least the men, a lot of times the men have, you know, the men have more distinctive looks, you know, especially with facial hair and the way their hair is styled and kind of how they dress. So the men were a tiny bit easier to figure out for the most part. But yeah, the women were very, very difficult because I kept getting a couple of the women just completely opposite. So yes, my one frustration with the artwork, but in general the artwork is fine. I mean, it's dark and gritty and raw, and you feel like you're in the world of Vikings. But either way, I definitely, if you love all things Vikings, pick this up. I think you might enjoy it. Frustrated with Clint Barton's recent attitude, Kate Bishop escapes to LA to learn more about herself and just relax. But a superhero can never just relax, and Kate runs into Madame Mask, who is trying to get revenge. Yay! Volume 3 was so much freaking fun, you guys. I've previously read and enjoyed the first 2 volumes of this Hawkeye series, and what's really different and unique about Volume 3 is that this moves away from Clint Barton's Hawkeye and focuses more on the character of Kate Bishop, who is also Hawkeye. So yeah, there's like 2 Hawkeyes in this series. One's male, one's female. So yeah, you have Clint Barton, who, you know, most of us know from the movies and whatnot. So yeah, this is primarily focused on Kate Bishop's Hawkeye, which I really loved. I loved just this whole book was dedicated to her for this volume. Yeah, she's getting frustrated with Clint and his attitude and his behavior because some things have gone down in the previous 2 volumes. So Kate's like, screw you, Clint, I'm going off to LA and I'm gonna have a good time. So yeah, off to LA Kate Bishop goes. She takes Lucky the dog, which is Clint's dog technically. So yeah, if you love Lucky the dog from the first 2 installments, he's back. He's even better in this. Of course, Kate, she can't just have a good time in LA because, of course, there's super villains afoot. I loved Madame Mask, you guys. She was epic. I think I'm only familiar with Madame Mask through Agent Carter. I believe that was Madame Mask, correct? Any of you who have seen Agent Carter, the very short-lived 2-season Agent Carter TV series, one of the villains, I believe, in that 2nd season was Madame Mask, if I'm not mistaken. And I've kind of always wanted to know more about her comic book version. So yeah, I loved Madame Mask as the villain of this. Her and Kate were just great polar opposites with one another. And don't get me started about the humor, you guys. I think what this Hawkeye series excels at the best is just the rich humor. The humor is just very natural and just wild and crazy and just reference overload, and it's great. It's one of those comic book series where the dialogue just really makes you laugh out loud, and I love it. And there are some more installments to this Hawkeye series. I believe there's like a 4th and 5th installment, and I have yet to pick those up, so this book definitely left me hanging and wanting more from these 2 Hawkeyes, if you will. So yeah, if you love all things Marvel Comics, pick this up. And yeah, you know, poor Hawkeye in the movies, he doesn't get very much love and whatnot. He's kind of really bland and boring sometimes, but yeah, I think this comic book series really makes the Hawkeye franchise, if you will, it makes Hawkeye more exciting and lovable, I think. In Original Sin, Thor and Loki, a mysterious 10th realm has been discovered. Thor and Loki team up to find the whereabouts of this realm and come to discover that they have a sister, Angela, who they never knew existed. So you guys, a quick disclaimer about this series, Original Sin. Apparently, whatever has happened prior to this book, there was some like death or assassination of this character known as the Watcher. You kind of get a very brief synopsis, like, you know, kind of like previously on. That's all you get. You just get a very minor previously on prior to reading this book. And yeah, my basic understanding about this series, the entire series itself is called Original Sin. And various different characters are participating in this series. My particular volume here is all Thor and Loki and their adventures during Original Sin. But yeah, if you go to a comic book store or Barnes & Noble or whatever, you'll find tons of books with the title of Original Sin. And yeah, there's like one for Iron Man, I believe, and one for Captain America, I think. You know, just about every big popular Marvel character, they all have some sort of stake in this Original Sin. But yeah, me personally, I'm a huge Thor and Loki fan. I love those characters. So I wanted to pick this up, and I think, I don't know, I guess you can read this as a standalone if you've not read much else from the Marvel Universe. I guess you can get into this if you think you can get into it easily and quickly. But for me personally, because I have primarily read a lot of Thor and Loki based comics. I've read the Journey into Mystery series with Thor and Loki, and I've read the Loki Agent of Asgard series. And a lot of stuff from those two particular series, they make huge appearances in this particular book. So that helped me personally with backstory. You know, since I'm not familiar with the concept of Original Sin and how it kind of initially gets started and whatnot, if that makes sense. So yeah, this comic, you're either going to like it or hate it, or you're going to just get into it, or you're going to be terribly confused. It really just depends on you as a reader how much previous Marvel comics you've read. But like I said, I mean, if you've read maybe a bunch of Thor and Loki related stuff, this will be much easier for you to get into, like it was for me personally. But yeah, this is primarily about Thor and Loki teaming up. Of course, Loki being up to his mischievous shenanigans and whatnot. And yeah, the two of them finding out they have a sister named Angela. Okay. I don't know how that happened and where it came from, but it's in here, you guys. I don't know how I feel about that, to be quite honest, but either way, Angela was a pretty badass character. It'd be kind of cool if maybe she did appear in the movies at some point. I don't know how plausible that would be, but still, overall, a good volume here. I personally enjoyed it for the most part. The artwork was great. You know, the world of Thor and Loki and whatnot and Asgard, you know, it's very vibrant and colorful and just really whimsical and strange and weird, and I think the artwork really developed that and fleshed it out, you know. So yeah, if you love all things Thor and Loki, pick this up. You might enjoy it and you might not. It kind of depends on you and how much previous Marvel stuff you've read. So you guys, that's it for this wrap-up of all these various different comic books. If you've made it through this video, 2 thumbs up for you. In the comments below, have you guys read any of these comics? Do you plan on reading any of them? What comics should I pick up in the future? I always love kind of finding new and interesting comics to read and whatnot. But yeah, you guys in the comments below, share any thoughts and feelings with me, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.